Well, hello there, everybody. A little bit early. Thought I'd just come in and kind of hang out and see what was going on in the chat room and just kind of hang out a little bit. Sometimes it's good being early. That's the way I look at it. And I hope you're having a fabulous freaking prosperity day. That's all I got to say. As I think that we are, in fact, live, it says. So I'm all over that. I can see myself. You can see yourself. So, yeah, we're cool. Again, welcome. It's, about 3 minutes early, but hey, listen, I couldn't think of a better place to be early at than sitting around. Hey, Zigzag, what's up? Good to see you, Carol and Bonnie and Belanca. Chloe, I saw that you were in here earlier. Gilbert, how are you, my friend? Gilbert's been doing that thing, yikes, moving. I don't know about you, but I got to tell you, I can bend, but wow, moving. Woo, that's tough. So anyway, good to see you, brother. Jargo, hello. What's happening? Bernadette, good to see you. 1212 portal. Joyce, hello. Lori, what's up? Go. Good to see you as well. Belanca, how are you and the kids? Everyone doing good? I trust. So yeah, like I said, just thought I'd come by and see what condition my condition was in. Yeah, Kenny Rogers. Oh, Ruby, don't take your love. Remember that song? Yeah, going back. But that's what life is about, memory. So got a lot to talk about today. Isby, what's up? Good to see you. I'm going to have a sip of my fine tea. And it's so good for me. I love this tea. Hey, we made it rhyme 3 times, so there you go. Isby says, what's happening? Positive manifestation. Isby, I'm glad you brought that up. This is like, I got to tell you, folks, if you can swing it, this is really a good book to have in your library. I chuckle when I read what's in here. This is some pretty good stuff, I really have to say. Let me just get in. By the way, do you know, it's interesting. In my youth, long hair was everywhere. Got my butt kicked because of my long hair. But anyway, it says that wise men and women, witches, shamans, gurus, Native Americans, Neanderthals, Celts, Vikings, Gales, Picts, Scythians, and on and on and on, all had long hair. And think about the story, Samson, Goliath, no, that was, what was his, Delilah? Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting because many women, when they have been in a long-term relationship and they typically grow their hair out, I'm just reading what the book had to say. I thought it was interesting. They will cut their hair, shorter style. And that is basically to rid the energy that we build up when we are in relationships with other people. So cool. It's why the army and the military, when you go in, they shave your head. It's important. It's important that they do it very quickly because you just lost everything about you. Yeah. Now you're easily programmable. Something to remember. We're going to talk about this. I thought this was so interesting. The crucified serpent of knowledge. So again, this is show and tell. So you can see that that is a serpent with an apple and an arrow. And it says, most people don't realize how much money goes against the natural way. Serpent people like to live by bartering and trading of services. The American dollar sign is a magic sigil which in truth represents the serpent people and their knowledge, represented by the apple in the snake's mouth being crucified on an arrow. The dollar bill. Powerful, powerful sigil. I thought this next thing I found again, magic. You know, what is magic and what is a spell? Their definition is so cool. So a spell, we're going to get more into this in a later date, but what exactly is a spell? Spells are the engines of magic, and magic is defined by intent, focused intent, bringing to pass, literally changing the quantum structure. Wow, it's far out. They are the means by which magic works. You use a spell to perform magic in potions, in incense making, in chanting, and psychometric and sigilization, in chakra working, and in all the vast array of methods available. And magic is a way of altering things to the way you want through occult laws. These occult laws might be forever unknowable to science, or it may simply be that science hasn't worked them out yet. Basically, casting spells means you are practicing magic. Yeah, we're going to get into this as well. And he gets into the whole thing in potions. This is a fascinating book, but I want to get back to that whole thing with the serpent. I'm going to show you something real quick. I thought it was interesting. Since everyone is coming in, welcome everybody. Favor be unto you. Nothing missing, nothing broken. It's Prosperity Day, Monday, and it is a pleasure to share the mind together, doing the Vulcan mind thing. This was probably one of my favorite pieces of work. Did this about 6-7 years ago. And what I wanted to bring out in this series, and because this is not foreign to me at all, and if many of you have been following me, it's not foreign to you as well. So I asked the question, this is the picture of the known universe. Now, I don't know how that can be, but that's what they say. So, all right, I'll buy, I'll bite into it and say, all right, so is this God? It's a strange resemblance to synaptic pathways. Is the universe simply the mind of a race of beings that are beyond our capacity or ability to fathom? Energy being what it is. But here's the interesting thing about this picture. All right, so these are trillions upon trillions of galaxies. They tell us 13, 14 billion years ago. I don't think we really know. But all right, I'll go along. But you know what? Here's the interesting thing. This would have absolutely no impact if everything was light. But it only works in the backdrop of darkness. So what I did, and if you want to go back, it's so interesting to see. Here we are 6 years later. We're learning more, we're seeing more, we're understanding more, but it looks more and more like this probably is what God looks like. If there is a being, I don't think a sentient being calls itself God is the God of everything that we just saw there. However, there is good evidence that says that this very well may be who we are. I want to get, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we have a lot of material to cover here, but go back and check this out. We're going to talk about the serpent on the cross, the true if there was a crucifixion, that was probably where it was taken from. But anyway, serpents everywhere. We're going to study how this became this. Yeah. And, that's the thing when you have Hellenism, everything is added to the pot. There isn't any one particular top dog in this case, but it's all blended together and, you can take from it what you want. So we know that the earliest symbols we've had are of the reptilians. These puppies are everywhere reptilians. And it goes back, if history has been redefined and rewritten, then it's left this out. Now, they'll say, well, this is really nothing more than iconography, symbols representing a belief of a local people. If you took the time to carve it out and what have you, I have a feeling it's a little bit more. But then, you get this whole thing where you get these odd statues that are found, figurines, and they got the damnedest thing there. I mean, it's like, well, that looks like a reptilian to me. And who is it holding? Well, I don't think that's sapien. Maybe Cro-Magna. That's what it looks like to me and my impression. So what's all this about? Reptilians, the snake, the serpent upon the cross, the whole serpent story with the Adam and Eve, the seduction of Eve, then you get all the way back to some of the oldest figurines. Mesopotamia, this is Sumer, supposed to be in Anna. The Enki and Inyel and Anu were really nothing more than a reptilian race, as is Yahweh, as is Jesus. I mean, I'm talking bloodlines here, right? So going back to India, Far East, the serpent goddess, creation, death, life, rejuvenation of life. And like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This was a lot of fun putting together. This is the rainbow serpent of creation that came out of Southeast Africa. Again, the serpent, everywhere is the serpent. And it plays a pivotal role in our history. Our ancestors knew something. They were definitely tied to something. You can't find this type of work, symbolism, art, however you want to define it, and have it around the world where in a time where man was supposedly not able to travel such vast distances. And I wanted to get to what it's been right in our face. By the way, this is one of the oldest coins that, look at this. So I believe this is Grecian. And here is the crucifixion, right, of a man. And here is the crucifixion of the serpent. I don't know. It's so I thought we'd just visit this just for a little bit. So this is the public receiving hall at the Vatican. I mean, folks, if you're going to be spending the type of money they spent, and I think this project was well up into the like 40, $50 million, could have been more. But when you put this together, you can't tell me that the architect went, oh, crap, Harry, look, what the hell did you do here? You know, I mean, no, this is, and the stained glass windows are particularly of interest because it is said that the being that is called Lucifer, that her eyes are that of the rainbow. And that is certainly serpentine. I don't care how you slice it and dice it. Someone asked me here recently, and folks, I've got emails. I'm just behind. Just be patient. I'll get to you. Thank you for your patience. But this is the Luciferian prayer. You can go and see the video. I mean, this is done yearly in the Vatican. It translates from Latin, and I'm not going to read the Latin. It's flames alight, O Lucifer, the morning come, and he, I say, O Lucifer, who does not know the going down thereof, Christ, thy Son, who, returning from the grave, human race shed his peaceful light, and now lives and reigns forever. End. Amen. Now, amen is actually a spell. It's not what people think it is. But that one has always puzzled me. I mean, what? I mean, you go, what? Okay. Did they just say that? Yeah, they really did. So, you know, we get back into the timelines of the serpent, and I won't get into a lot of this, but yeah, it's in our DNA. Healing, wisdom, direct connection to us. By the way, this is the serpent represented by wisdom and healing, carrying souls to heaven. That's interesting. It's right there in front of us, folks. I mean, these aren't coincidences. I mean, you know, it's like no one just simply woke up one day and said, okay, how about if we just give this to the supposed representation of Father God, whoever that is, and oh, by the way, let's get Baphomet in here too. Sure, makes perfect sense. And, you know, there is some strangeness afoot, and we've studied about this, and the fact that there really is no Satan. If anything, it's an astronomical reference and term. But again, this is all over the place. And then you get into the reptilians and the dragons. You know, the only thing they didn't put in here for us was, you know, what happened to the damn giants? So anyway, I am not going to continue on this, but folks, this is some strange stuff. Again, you know, you look at this and come on. I mean, if you're in denial, let me tell you, you're not on a river in Egypt, man. You're like way off planet. So, and there's the building on the outside. Who'd have thought? And one last thing, and Colleen, you sent this, and it's amazing because it was part of this thing that we put in. This is the two interpretations of Christ. One is a lizard and one is a man. Now, what we've studied on angels, this could be interpreted as probably a second tier level 1 angel that both is reptilian and human in likeness and form. Yeah, some people say, no, it represents Christ's hair blowing. Blowing? Blowing what? I mean, if that's representation of hair being blown, what's he standing in? A hurricane? So anyway, enough of that. And let me get out of here for a second, folks. It goes on and on and on. It's right there in front of us. It's and if you read the books, and we've got them. I mean, this book here again is, if you can get it in your library. It's a freaking gold mine as a reference book. But so it looks like the goddess mother is probably reptilian. I mean, people don't want to hear that shit, but you know, listen, folks, to create these images that we see when they build these and when they sculpt them or what have you, sculpting is the highest form of magic I think a person can perform. I mean, you ever talk to a person who talks about their work? Back in the 90s, I did a lot of traveling to New York City, and I loved the museums and the art shows. And it's so interesting when you have particularly sculptresses or sculptors. I mean, the energy that's being literally taken from the hand, and you're creating this. So to me, this has got symbolism, magic, occultism all over it. Seraphim, yeah, Matt says, yep. Hey, Mary Wins, how you doing, my dear? Let her rip, Wayne. Thank you, Robin. Hey, Ryder Lee, how are you? So good. I think all the Anunnaki are reptilian. I think you'd be right, my friend. Ryder, if you'd like to come back on, love to talk about it. We could really get into it. I'm going to be on with your good buddy, Chris Matthew, on the 4th of January, I believe. So, yeah. We know that as the embryo forms within the womb, they have a tail. They're all female. These are traits of reptilians. Then you got to figure out, well, then where did the Neanderthals come from? And there's good evidence that shows that the Neanderthals were some pretty freaking bright as a species, as a homo genus of man. Hey, Dragon Soul Fox, what's up? Good to see you, Cynthia. Hello. So, Musgrave, what's happening? What was that about, Mr. Doherty? That's true. I don't know. Anunnaki was said to have married a reptilian princess, and I actually have a picture in my files of what these bipedal reptilians look like. We walked right beside them. I think we were actually probably subservient to them. Guess it could always be. See, Kelp? Well, thank you. Appreciate that. So I want to continue because there's a lot to cover here. So I talked about the whole thing about the serpent and the cross. And it says, get this, the Greek word translated as meaning crucified, centauros, actually means impaled on a stake or pole. None of this cross stuff. You see how it gets in? And then it becomes reality. It becomes history. And you get whole world governments and people by the billions that buy into it. And then it freaking does become real. But no one does the background check. Never. says, however, as the churches are trying to hide the Ashtoreth pole, who is Ashroth? Who's Ashroth? Yep, goddess mother. Excuse me, or stake was the totem symbol of the Israelites' mother goddess, Ashroth. They try and keep this hidden. Ashroth was worshipped as the wife of God. Well, I got an email that it's this freaking long, but holy crap, this person just really is freaked out because they're doing their own homework. Bravo. Haven't responded to them, but because I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it basically they've had this shatter point, where the core shatters, and then you're going, oh crap, now we're going to have to really pick up the pieces. And the thing is, what I've read so far is that they can't refute what I'm saying because, yeah, it's there. Hell of a thing, this internet. It says this explains why the Bible bizarrely calls Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who is hung on a pole. The above quote saying Jesus is cursed is surprising because Jesus was following the direction of God and Moses, who taught their followers to erect a pole, meaning an Ashtaroth pole, if they wanted to have life. And the Lord said unto Moses, make you a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looks up, it shall live. Meaning the person. And Moses made a serpent of bronze and put it on a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of bronze, he lived. And here's where I come back now. I've read this almost 45 years ago. And now I can go, now, wait a minute. So you're following this cat, calling himself God. He's laying down the law. I mean, the penalties here are like, hey, man, you can get your head chopped off. You can get stoned to death. You can be buried up to your head. I mean, there is a numerous of how to kill you if you don't follow it. Now, it's all knowing. But yet it led, and if you believe the story, that they'd like you to think well over 1 million people. Don't think it was that big. It would have been the logistics of feeding 1 million, anyway, a large group of people who apparently, got, steerage passage, not VIP, because this God leads them right into a valley that's full of fucking snakes. And not the kind of snakes that will not bother you. No, these, according to what is written, these are the kind that are vipers that kill your ass. I don't make it understand. So anyway, this is what the Ashtoreth pole looked like. And there's the depiction of the artist with, Moses raising the serpent for the sins of the children of Israel. It's an Ashtoreth pole. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so much the Son of Man be lifted up. This means that Jesus was also trying to rep himself as Moses' fiery serpent on a cross, as well as the serpent in the Garden of Eden story, who gave life and knowledge to people in defiance of the gods. So this is a short paper. If you don't have it, it's well worth the read. It's good to have in your files, because you begin to find out as you read this that wait a minute. You know, yeah, that's what it says. And you're going, but that's pointing back to a serpent, a reptilian. What, you got to ask yourself, what the hell's going on here? And it's just not me, but it's millions of us who have come out. Now, what's interesting is how these Abrahamic religions have to have the antithesis of the antagonist. Without that, you don't have a story. A story only works is that if you have something that's opposing it. It's like the three types of drama. There's only three. Every movie, every song, every book is written within the triad of three. How many of you know this? What is it? It's man against nature. Think about that one. Man against man, and man against himself. There you go. So anyway, you go back and you look at this and you're going, okay, now wait a minute. And here's another part. It says, the first chapters of the Bible that was never written by Moses, the magician. But anyway, the word translated as meaning God is Elohim, which means gods. Particularly, it's the both stance of the feminine and the divine. Okay. So the churches have deliberately mistranslated the word Elohim because they know that their God can't compete against the other gods and goddesses. There are, of course, other gods that are far more impressive, humane, and better to worship. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I can see the red light going off over my space. Whoop, whoop. He's at it again. He's at it again. Yeah. Because you got to ask yourself, this cat did say that, he's a angry, jealous, vengeful God. Well, dude, if you're like the El Supremo, what the hell do you have to be jealous of? It's like, okay. But anyway, because this is all impacting us today, because it keeps getting back to the snake. And we dropped off. We're going to get into the alien interview here, but we have to finish up on this part because we're beginning to get an idea of who Enlil is, and we've begun to now understand who Enki is. I think we left off where I said Enki loved to go sailing or cruising on these water courses in his watercraft, which he called the Albic, after the nimble goats which inhabited the surrounding mountains. In this way, the ibex and the goat with a fish tail became the symbolic of the god Enki and appeared often on Sumerian seals and monuments. As the god of mining, Enki is often shown with a human miner holding an ingot of metal on a carrying pole. Metal was molded in this way in the form of a cylinder with a hole through the middle in order to facilitate its being carried on a pole with a handle. It is also shown at times with his two sons, Gaibel and Nergal, who were in charge of mining activities. That's a hell of a thing if it really is true that, man, all we was fodder for the fire. I mean, it's degrading in one aspect because it completely flushes out the story of creation, that man created in the image of God, given a living soul. I mean, we like to really put ourselves up on the ladder, but man, it looks like we were the ones that the ladder was standing on top of. It says, but most important of all, Enki is remembered as the God who created man and who came to his defense against the capricious Enlil. As the creator of man, he is often shown with the tree or shrub of life. The serpent was also Enki's symbol, presumably for its ability to shed its skin and therefore achieve a sort of immortality. The depiction of the serpent was one method the ancient artisans used to represent their reptile ancestors. It is also from the representation of the serpent coiled around the tree of life that the caduceus of the Greeks later evolved, just as the capricious Enlil is remembered as the god who brought on the deluge. So we got two bifurcated points of view now diverging here, because here it looks like this was the act of a god. Now, I don't know, the way I kind of look at it, I don't see these as gods, but I see them as, extraterrestrials. They're not native of Earth. We are, they're not. But if they're traveling the star system, they're traveling, they've overcome the distance, how, corporeal form can exist in the voids of space. So they figured out something to do with space travel. Either they figured out wormholes or some sort of propulsion that we, maybe it's even above, the Starship Enterprise, right? With the crystals, who knows? But anyway, so if this was Enlil's doing, well, then Enlil would definitely be taking on the characteristics of Jehovah, Yahweh, because we've got Yahweh saying that he's the one who did this. What if, and I'm just saying what if, for a friend, what if that's exactly the way it is? What if the Jewish tradition, the Hebrew, where, supposedly Christianity comes from, if you take the Hebrew equation out of it, again, Christianity is left holding the bag. I mean, it's like, oh, hell, they found out about us, but interesting. Enki is recognized as the one who saved mankind by his timely warning of the coming disaster to the Sumerian Noah. And that's true. The Sumerians had a Noah before Noah was a Noah. Enki's unauthorized creation of modern man, or Homo sapiens, further estranged him from Enlil. So this is interesting because let's say we're talking timelines here of hundreds of thousands of years, which kind of goes in what we're finding in the records now. So we are really kind of a Johnny come lately to the scene. Someone asked in the comments, how long was Adam and Eve in the garden? Depending on whose interpretation you read and whose imagination can be justified as the longest one, the range is from 7 hours to a couple of weeks. I don't know. They don't tell us. So anyway, the antagonism between the two erupted again after the deluge among the children who kept the Middle East in a state of turmoil for thousands of years. Even up to the present day, it might be added, those people never stopped fighting. That's a fact. Many presidents have gotten a black eye trying to be the one who can bring peace to the Middle East. Not going to happen. Those people have been at each other for way back. And if you go by the story, then this is Ishmael and Isaac. you know. But Ishmael was first. And it's an interesting story about Ishmael when Hagar, his mother, was banished to the desert by Abraham. Apparently, it was the angel Michael who came down and took care of Hagar and Ishmael. For some of you, that's just whatever, filling it in. So then we have the Nin-Kursag, the chief medical officer. And that's interesting because right behind here, we got the alien interview, and it's interesting how Ariel talks about this. Anyway, Nin-Kursag is, or Lady of the Mountaintop, was the fourth senior Sumerian god. She was a half-sister to Enki and Enlil. In early days, Nin-Kursag was of higher rank than Enki and preceded his name when they appeared together. She was later reduced in status and practically disappeared from the pantheon as a major or effective influence. Well, I mean, ladies, y'all are totally getting messed over, man. Always. It just always. I mean, they have really done what Cecil B. DeMille did in his, the Exodus with Charlton Heston. They really did wipe her from the memory of us. Her name, her image, anything related to her. And when you think about the monumental task that is this infection, this virus continued to expand across the world, that it eliminated any reference to any female, any feminine goddess, wiped it away. This is the comment. It says, from Stitchen's work, we know that Nin-Kursag is the equivalent of the Egyptian goddess Isis, which in turn we know from the Greek mythology is the Greek goddess Hera, later renamed Juno by the Romans. It may be that she was eclipsed by the rising star of Inanna, or Ishtar, who injected herself in all Sumerian and Western affairs. In the Western lands, such as Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon, Ishtar appeared in several forms. As the mother goddess, she displaced Nin-Kursag. Her role was that of a sex or love goddess. She was also known for her militant role as the warrior goddess. Sounds like Lilith, doesn't it? Nin-Kursag is also known by many other names, such as Ninti, the lady who gives life, Ninmah, the exalted lady, Mamu, the created goddess, a name from whence came our word mama. So ladies, if someone's calling you mama, you can just say, you can kiss my hand. So to all the mamas out there, high five. That's all I got to say. It says, in the land of the Incas, she was known as I think I got this, Pashamama, is the great or what? Nin-Kursag was given the antediluvian city of Shupak, where she reigned as the chief medical officer and chief nurse for the members of the expedition. This sounds like Ariel all over. Her sacred symbol was the umbilical cord, the umbilical cord, and the cutter knife used to sever it. Well, that's pretty graphic. Enki and Nin-Kursag directed biological experiments in the laboratories atop her ziggurat at Shuparak, and in Enki's floating headquarters, which led to the creation of the first primitive man called Lulu. This was a hybrid mammal-reptile form. This was done at the direct request of In, who wanted a creature able to take over the burdensome workload now being performed by the children of On. Following formulas and processes provided by Enki, Nimrherzog produced a worker, but one with a major failing. It could not reproduce itself. By going a step further and modifying this primitive being by giving it a predominant mammal characteristics, Enki and Nimrherzog overreached their commission. In crossbreeding the Lulu with the wild primitive man of the period, Neanderthal man, they achieved a new worker type, modern man or Homo sapiens, better known as Cro-Magnon man. It's us. It was this activity that brought down the wrath of Enlil in further diluting the Caesarean strain. He saw it as a direct threat to the survival of the reptile race. The numerical rank of the gods. There was a very explicit pecking order among the astronaut gods of the Sumerian pantheon. They were assigned numerical ranks based on the system of 60. This number represented a special, almost mystical significance for the Sumerians. Each major god was given a numerical name, which represented his rank in the hierarchy. In this way, numbers were used as a sort of cryptographic that the numerical ranks of the Sumerian ruling deities were assigned in descending order of importance. Anu had 60, Antu 55, Enlil 50, Ninlil 45, Enki 40, Nike 35, Nannar 30, Nigel 25, and Utu 20, and Anna 15, Ishkur 10, and Nimrherzog 5. The number ending in 5 were assigned to the distaff side. According to Sumerian tradition, only males could command, a policy that caused much distress in the affairs of the Middle East, for Inanna refused to accept her status and intrigued and plotted almost continuously to gain political power. The number 50 not only represents the rank of Enlil, but also his position as chief of all the activities on earth. After the deluge, when the younger gods challenged the authority of the older gods for leadership, Enlil's military aide, I think that's Ninurta, assumed the title of 50 and thereby lay claim to the mantle of leadership, which apparently had been vacated by Enlil. Besides Ninurta, there was another claimant of the leadership. Marduk, the eldest son of Enki, was unranked in the pantheon. He was assumed the title of 50 as he proclaimed himself chief of Babylon. While the eclipse of the senior gods after the deluge, there was a scramble for power among the younger gods, Nannar, Utu, Ishkur, with Inanna seemingly always involved. It brought much disorder to the nations of the Middle East. This manifested itself in constant warfare among the cities of Mesopotamia, which became pawns in the struggle of the competing gods. Second tier of the pantheons, the younger ruling gods. Only the sons, daughters, wives, and grandchildren of Enki were given numerical rank in the pantheon. The sons of Enki did not participate, perhaps because they were assigned geographic areas and activities away from Mesopotamia after the deluge. I did a video said that there were actually 10 gods, still are. A precaution of the part of Enlil to prevent conflict between the cousins, but presumably also to retain control of Mesopotamia for his family. The Sumerian gods were always depicted geographically with horned crowns. In the latter days, the senior gods were represented by a horned crown sitting on an altar. When the names of the gods were written out on the cuneiform tablets, they were always preceded by the pictographic symbol of a star or a dinger. The term dinger was a combination of D-I-N, meaning the righteous one. The gur, the word for a bird or flying object. In other words, the symbol dinger meant that the name which followed was that of a god who was separated from common humanity by his ability to move about by celestial chariots or crafts. Wonder if those could be all the UFOs. You know, there may be a thought that these UFOs aren't from distant galaxies and what have you. They've been here. And again, if in fact that they have been able to conquer the time-distance equation in space itself, portals, gates. Each god had his sacred animal and symbol. These can be clearly seen in the boundary stones or markers used by the Babylonian dynasties of the second millennial BC. Wow. So, and I won't continue in this because it gets into the fact, well, you really should read this because it begins to make sense how you suddenly have the adoption for Lord. You begin to understand, and it's odd because if the Bible, for whatever reason you want to call it, if you've never read it, don't worry about it. If you have, so I don't know what you do with it, but it aids, I guess, in a general understanding. But the thing that's always got me about the legitimacy of Sumer and the pantheon of their stories, of their myths, and the tablets and the cylinders, is that maybe they're not myths or imaginative stories. Because it's interesting, as I have all pointed out, in the book of Zechariah, and, you know, when I finally came upon Sumer and started studying it, wow. But in the book of Zechariah, it talks about a spaceship with two female pilots that come and visit the angel and Zechariah. There's a dude that's sitting in the center, but there's two women pilots that sit on, you know, opposite sides of this craft. Yeah. So this isn't, Nanar is the legitimate ruler of Mesopotamia, born of the rape of Ninyel. Nanar, the bright one, was the favorite son of Enyel. So here we have now a story of a rape of a divine feminine by the masculine, which gave birth to an apparent heir. It mirrors the story of Eve being seduced by the serpent. So to be seduced and beguiled means to be sexually, physically, mentally, and spiritually taken over, seduced. So anyway, after the deluge, he was assigned all the lands of Mesopotamia, Syria, and Palestine. His sacred city was that's where Abram comes from, or capital city, and his sacred symbol was the crescent moon. The symbol was so dominant that the post-Diluvian times that it later was adapted by Islam, just as the cross of Shamash was adapted by the Christians. His Semitic name is Sin. The Sinai region was named after him. It is really not a Semitic name, but a loan word from Sumerian, Su-in or Zu-in, meaning the wise Lord. Since Sumerian names can be read forwards as well as backwards, Zuin may be the Inzu or the Lord Zu, who stole the tablets of destiny from Inyel and were retrieved by Nurata with the aid of Ishkar and weapons supplied by Enki. This is strongly suggested by the noble absence of Ninar, Sin, from the myth of Zu discussed below. It also explains Sin's falling out of favor at certain times in the history of Mesopotamia and the challenge of Nurata to the rank of 50. Anyway, so there's actually, just do the research. I did a whole video on it. There's actually what can only be described as a spaceport. I mean, and it is said that in the city of Ur, that this was what Ur actually was. You should really read this. It's so fascinating because it's going to have a direct correlation, I believe, when we get into Ariel's book. I like this, and we'll probably ease out of it from here, but it says, this book is dedicated to all immortal spiritual beings, whether they are aware of themselves as such or not. It is specially dedicated to the wisdom, courage, and integrity of those greater beings who, in various incarnations at various times during the past, in the present, and into the future, enkindle and carry the flame of truth into the darkest corners of the universe. This dedication is not only to the philosophical teachings and technologies developed by these beings, but to the demonstrated and documented courage to apply their philosophy in the face of overwhelming ignorance, overt hostility, and aggressive suppression by lesser beings, and by the self-serving vested interest of intergalactic and planetary political, economic, and religious institutions. Though relatively few in number, the profound wisdom and heroic dedication of such beings and those who share their quest have been the only effective deterrent to spiritual slavery. Freedom, communication, creativity, trust, and truth for all immortal spiritual beings in this universe is their legacy. The good example set by them is our sanctuary and substance. Personally, diligent application of their teachings is our weapon against the dwindling spiral of chaos and oblivion that is the material universe. Wow. So, what a show. I got to tell you what, your head almost begins to spin, because at some point, you got to look at this and say, all right, so I'm supposed to take this set of what is truth, and I'm supposed to build my whole reality, my whole life, get up, go to work, put in 8-10 hours, come home, get some food. Maybe it's not so good. Sit on the couch, watch the television, go to bed, get up, and do it all over again. And then I'm giving the privilege of having 2 days for myself, but because I'm already working beyond anything else, zapping my strength, my life force out of me, I end up having more to do on what is supposedly my days off, and come to find out it's an illusion. There is no day off. It is said in one video that life is supposed to be miserable. Life is supposed to be hard, and you just got to suck it up and take it just the way it is. You know, I don't agree with that ideology. I don't agree with that theology. Because if that's what's representing above, then whoa, because it's indicative that it ain't going to be no picnic over there either. And it's the same mindset over and over again, but yet we're inundated with evidence of saying, but that's not true. That's the result of a being that's messed up to begin with, always was messed up. And when you look at the methodical purposeful way that they have removed in the Western culture, in our idioms and nomenclature, anything where women, goddess, is superior to he, God. You have the females of this planet that are so indoctrinated into the subservient role that they've never raised their voices, not in philosophical, nor do I see it in religious or theology. It's beginning to emerge, but the problem with that is it's so distorted by that which really was. Maria says, are you complaining? Well, I don't know, Maria. I think we have a lot to complain about. The world's in a mess, and it's not getting any better. And we're an insane race because we do this over and over and over again. I will talk about it, but you know, why rock the boat, you know? Grace says, just join the dots. It is. It is fun. I mean, I think it's discussions like this and in other places and in other corners and other channels that we're discussing these things, and everyone's got an idea, and that's what makes it cool. You know, I believed a book that absolutely has no foundation of truth at all, no evidence, none of itself, because it requires faith. That's what they tell you. What your faith isn't strong enough. So you had to basically conduct, and this is what it is. You're casting a spell on yourself. You read the material over and over again. That's a spell. And then you begin to adapt your thinking into that which you're reading over and over and over again. And then you adapt not only your thinking, but your words. And when that's complete, the spell is cast. I mean, it's magic right in front of you. If you want to know how magic works, that's how it works. If you want to manifest a house, it's the same process. I would suggest that you put a house of your dreams on your refrigerator, in your bathroom, wherever you're going to spend time looking. And then once it becomes, you get that synaptic pathway laid down, then start feeding it. Write about it. Talk about it. And then it happens. Anyway, there we go. Anyway. Yeah, talking about Santa. There you go. There's another one. We're a strange species. I mean, we really are. We create what is supposed to be enduring, right? Well, Santa, he brings gifts. You know what? As a kid, I had a couple of Christmases where Santa didn't come. I didn't get anything. And we love deceiving our children. And then when we deceive them, we make the excuse to pay homage to this materialized monetary system where it's consume, consume, consume. Because Christmas, after all, is about giving. That'll be $25, please. I mean, yeah. So, Scotty Boy said, someone's leaving out eating the cookies. Well, you never know, you know. Could be that incubus, that succubus. It could be, you know, who knows? Lady Ellie, how are you doing? Everyone manifest favor today. That's true. All right. So for what it's worth, folks, it's tomorrow, Trina, I'll be on. We have some contractors coming in tomorrow. So hopefully the work will be done by then. But yeah, it's just so odd. So kind of recapping what we got today. Apparently our history is of a place and a design that, well, that wasn't in the script. Seems like we're more reptilian than we are anything else. And them damn serpents are everywhere. Everywhere, I'm telling you. And you can't tell me the thing in the Vatican, you know, why that doesn't have everyone in the world just shaking their head. I don't know. Well, I do know. They're under a spell. They don't see it. They don't see it that way. You know? But anyway. Suzanne. I hope not. There you go. John Price says, tacos and tequila for Santa here. Yeah. I got that ho, ho, ho thing down, John. That sounds pretty good. All right. All right. Have a good one, folks. I tell you, I just love this stuff. This stuff is just freaking amazing. Wow. And then you're going to tell me that there's a heaven and hell. Well, who built that? And we'll talk more about that one. Everyone, have a fantastic, prosperous day. Listen, you're breathing, so you're prospering there, but manifest it. Manifest it. Start with the small stuff, and then you'll get there. Thank you, Lady Rose. Well, thank you very much. That humbles me, making me blush. All right, folks. Y'all are the best. Thank you.